They say AI art is evil, that it's destroying creativity, stealing from artists, poisoning culture. But what if I told you the people shouting the loudest are ignoring the most dangerous parts of AI?
I just watched LavenderTowne's video on AI art and poisoning datasets, and while she makes some good points, MIT citations, tech critiques, ethics, there's one big issue.
Yeah, she's laser focused on AI-generated images, but skips over deepfakes, AI voices, fake videos, impersonation tech. You know, the stuff that could actually get someone hurt or manipulated in real life.
Exactly. This video isn't about defending everything AI does, but if you're going to take a moral stance, it better be consistent. So let's talk about what Lavender got right and what she's choosing not to see.
Her argument: AI poisoning as protest.
So let's get into it. One of LavenderTowne's big stances is that artists should poison AI datasets. She supports tools like Nightshade, which are designed to corrupt AI training. The idea is simple: embed images with hidden data that messes up the models. It's like hacking the training process.
Basically, it's digital sabotage, a way for artists to fight back against companies that scraped their work without permission. I get the emotion behind it. It feels like poetic justice.
Exactly. There's definitely a punk rock vibe to it, like street art with consequences. These artists didn't ask to be part of these AI models. They didn't give consent. And now they want to mess up the systems that used them.
But here's the part nobody wants to admit. That poison doesn't just hit the billion-dollar companies. It hits everyone who uses those tools.
Yeah, people forget that these AI tools aren't just for stealing styles or chasing clout. Some folks use them to tell stories they've never been able to express. Indie game devs, disabled artists, writers who can't afford an illustrator, even queer creators making comics that no mainstream publisher would touch.
So when someone like Lavender poisons a dataset, sure, maybe it messes with Midjourney or Stability AI, but it also means some student out there trying to visualize their senior thesis now has to deal with melted hands and nonsense faces. Like, who really got punished?
And I think this is where the selective outrage shows up. Lavender's whole message is about protecting human creativity. But what about the humans who can't draw, or don't have access to fancy art schools or time to master Procreate?
Exactly. There's this weird elitism to it. Like, only people who suffer for their art deserve to make art. But art has never been about gatekeeping. It's about expression. And if a tool helps someone do that, it matters.
There's a valid conversation to be had about AI ethics, consent, copyright, creative credit. Those are real issues. But poisoning the well for everyone because you're mad at the landlord, that's not rebellion. That's just recklessness.
And it raises a bigger question. Are we trying to build a better system or just burn the old one down, even if it takes good people with it?
I'm all for pushing back on big tech, but let's be honest about what this poisoning does. It's not just protest, it's friendly fire, and people are getting hit.
Selective outrage, ignoring deepfakes, voices, and video.
Here's where it gets wild. Lavender tears into AI-generated images, poisoning datasets, fighting back against copyright theft, but not a single word about AI voice cloning, deepfakes, robocalls, fake interviews, or political manipulation.
It's like yelling about AI lions while completely ignoring that someone deepfaked the president and used it to suppress voters, or made a fake Joe Rogan ad to sell snake oil supplements. These aren't hypotheticals. This stuff is happening.
And what's even weirder is how familiar this is. It's like when people scream about trans women in sports, but never talk about trans men. Selective outrage. Loud where it's easy, silent where it's complex. MAGA-style moral panic, but in soft pastel branding.
And honestly, it's dangerous. When you get so fixated on visual art as the villain, you start to ignore the real harm AI can cause. Reputational damage, voice theft, targeted disinformation, the stuff that wrecks lives, not just credit lines.
Look, AI art raises legit questions, but this narrow obsession with Midjourney anatomy errors while turning a blind eye to actual identity theft, that's not ethics. That's comfort zone outrage.
And here's the worst part. The longer we pretend the biggest threat is blobby hands, the more time real bad actors have to abuse this tech. While artists are fighting for purity tests, the scammers and political ops are running wild.
So yeah, criticize AI. But if you're only mad when it affects you and not when it endangers someone else, that's not integrity. That's brand management.
Using disabled people as a crutch.
Now here's where her message takes a weird turn. She calls out AI defenders for bringing up disabled people, saying it's just a social justice shield, basically accusing them of hiding behind disability as a defense for unethical AI art.
And that's pretty ironic, because while she says don't use disabled people unless you are one, she then turns around and uses her take on disability to make her own point. That's still tokenizing. It just sounds nicer.
Right. She even throws in the line, "If you're a disabled artist, I'd love to hear from you," which sounds good, but only after she's made her argument, after she's already framed the debate, after she set the rules.
Yeah, and what are they supposed to do? Leave a comment and hope for a future shout-out? If you're serious about inclusion, you bring people into the video, you share the mic, you make them part of the story, not a footnote.
And honestly, is Lavender really expecting a disabled person, someone who may already be dealing with energy limitations, chronic pain, accessibility issues, or executive dysfunction, to sit through an entire anti-AI video and then explain in a YouTube comment how generative AI has helped them?
That's a big ask, especially when the whole tone of the video already implies this tool hurts art. You probably agree, right?
And yeah, some disabled folks did reply in her comments, and a lot were against AI art. That's not surprising. If all you're hearing is, "This tech is unethical and it's stealing," of course people will push back on it. That doesn't mean there aren't disabled creators who've benefited from AI. It just means the space doesn't feel safe enough for them to say it.
They're not going to out themselves to a crowd that already decided what the right take is. That's not inclusion. That's damage control with soft lighting.
If you genuinely want to hear from disabled artists, you make room before you argue your side. You don't build the house, lock the door, and then say, "Hey, feel free to come in."
Now, maybe she'd say, well, pro-AI people do the same thing. They name-drop disabled folks too. And she's not wrong. Sometimes they do. Tokenizing happens everywhere.
Sure, but here's the difference. One side is fighting for access. The other side is trying to burn the bridge that gave people access in the first place.
When AI defenders bring up disabled artists, it's often because people are out here saying no real artist needs this stuff. That's not a hypothetical. It's a defense of people who are already being erased.
If you want to say, "Stop speaking for disabled people," that has to go both ways. Because you don't get to say, "Don't use them in your argument," and then turn around and do the exact same thing, just with pastel colors and sad music behind it.
At the end of the day, we're not defending corporations. We're defending people who finally have a tool to make something they care about.
And that should matter.
AI isn't real art. Reference use.
LavenderTowne argues that AI-generated images are useless as reference. She points out the bad anatomy, messed up hands, melted faces, and yeah, some of it is garbage.
She showed a rabbit wearing a shoe that looked like Play-Doh. I mean, that's not helping anyone draw better. But that's kind of a straw man.
Exactly. Most people aren't using AI references for perfect line tracing. They're using it for composition, color ideas, scene layout, or vibe, the same way people use Pinterest boards, 3D posing apps, or even game screenshots.
Right. Look at professional workflows. Tons of real artists already do this. Take Lop, for example, insanely popular digital painter on ArtStation. He uses 3D models for posing and composition, then paints over them by hand.
Yep, and Rostran, aka Rostraws, talks openly about using photo textures and color references. No one questions if he's a real artist.
In fact, if you've read comics, played games, or watched animated series, chances are you've seen work that uses photo bashing, mixing real photos into illustrations to speed things up. It's common. It's efficient. It's art.
Exactly. Using tools doesn't make your work less valid. It makes your workflow faster. This isn't cheating, it's technique.
And let's talk about folks using Clip Studio Paint's 3D models to pose characters or test camera angles. Is that not real art too?
Or animators using grease pencil and Blender to sketch 2D ideas over 3D rigs. That's a blend of AI-adjacent tech with hand-drawn work, and it's beautiful.
So when Lavender says AI images are bad references, she's ignoring the actual way people use references. Nobody's copying messed up fingers. They're borrowing lighting, vibe, mood, layout.
Frankly, this whole argument has an elitist undertone. It's like saying, you didn't go through the sacred suffering of formal art training, so your process doesn't count.
That's not art. That's gatekeeping. And it always hurts the folks who need the most access: beginners, disabled creators, people who can't afford expensive tools or time-intensive techniques.
We have to stop acting like struggle equals legitimacy. You don't need to bleed for your work to call it art. If you're expressing an idea, whether through AI help, reference sketching, or 3D posing, it still counts.
And guess what? If the work speaks to people, if it tells a story, if it inspires others, then yeah, it's real art.
Human versus AI inspiration.
So there's this moment in her video where Lavender gets personal. She talks about drawing orange hills in her comic and how she didn't even realize it at first, but it was a subconscious tribute to the wheat fields of her hometown.
Yeah, it's a touching story. It shows how deeply human art can be, how memory and emotion leak into the work, even when we don't mean it.
And that's beautiful. Seriously, I'm not here to mock that. But then she turns around and says, basically, see, a machine can't do that, as if anyone thought it could, as if someone using AI couldn't have just as deep a story behind their creation.
It's this weird purity test. Like, if your tool isn't emotional, then your intentions aren't either, which is nonsense.
Right? What, so if someone uses AI to recreate a dream they had or visualize a memory they can't draw by hand, it's suddenly fake, soulless?
Tell that to the disabled creator who finally got to show the story they've carried for 15 years. Or the trans kid who sees their inner self come alive through a Midjourney prompt when they've never had the safety or support to explore it otherwise. The person behind the prompt still has a life, still has memories, trauma, joy, nostalgia, struggle. If they use AI to visualize something from their past, that story's still real. That emotion still counts.
But what really got me is the passive-aggressive tone. Like, oh, look at this deeply human moment I had with my art, as if the rest of us are suddenly inhuman for using generative tools.
It's performative. It's elitism in a hoodie and pastel color palette. It's saying, I had a very human moment with my tools, and if you didn't do it the way I did, then your emotions don't measure up.
And that is straight up BS, because art isn't defined by whether your pen pressure is analog or digital. It's defined by what you're trying to say. And guess what? People who use AI still have something to say, sometimes louder than anyone. That person typing prompts might be expressing something you'll never understand. Grief, gender dysphoria, loneliness, neurodivergence, poverty, pain.
And they finally found a way to show it, because AI gave them a bridge. We're not just defending prompts, we're defending the right to create, no matter how you get there. Creativity is not a gated community.
You don't get to hand out authenticity badges based on what brushes people used. Whether you're using charcoal, Clip Studio, or a $2 AI app, if you're putting your truth into the world, that's real art. That's human art.
Sure, Lavender's moment was beautiful, but let's not pretend only traditional artists get to be emotional. We all have stories, we all have symbols. Some of us just needed a little help to bring them to life.
And if the gatekeepers don't like it, well, maybe they're just mad that the gate finally broke open.
Digital tools versus real art.
So Lavender claims AI art isn't a real medium, that it's fundamentally different from digital or traditional art, like it's not valid because it doesn't involve the same physical process.
That's such a tired argument. People said the exact same thing when photography came out, when digital tablets were introduced, when Photoshop hit classrooms. Every time the medium evolves, someone yells, "That's not real art."
Exactly. But here's the truth. Art is about expressing what's in your head. If you're imagining something and bringing it into the world, that's art. It doesn't matter if it's charcoal, Procreate, or a prompt generator.
And let's not pretend this is just about disabled artists. There are tons of reasons people can't traditionally make art. Financial, time, neurodivergence, trauma, access to education, hell, even just life burnout.
Yeah, there are people who work 2 jobs, who never had an art class in their life, who always had stories and visions in their head, but no training, no time, no resources. AI gave them a door they never had before.
And instead of celebrating that door being opened, some folks just want to slam it shut and say, come back when you've suffered enough to earn it.
But here's what really cracked me up. Lavender criticizes AI art by saying it's too expensive, like people are pretending it's a low-barrier tool. Then in the very same video, she shows off her drawing comparison, one done in pencil on paper and the other on a freaking iPad using Procreate.
Right? That's a 1,000 plus setup. It's like saying, just use paper, it's cheap, while you're flexing your Apple Pencil and custom brush pack.
It's selective logic. When she wants AI to seem inaccessible, she pretends paper is the holy grail. But when she wants to flex her own skills, suddenly we're in the Apple store.
Elitist minimalism. Look at me, I only need paper to draw, while conveniently ignoring the tech stack that makes her art business viable.
Let's call it what it is. Gatekeeping wrapped in a cozy hoodie. And it's not just hypocritical, it's insulting to the people who finally found access through AI.
Think about fan creators, indie devs, trans kids making dream characters, single moms writing fantasy books, poor students, rural teens without art classes, people from colonized cultures visualizing legends never covered by Disney.
AI is a tool. Like any other medium, it can be used ethically or unethically. But when you say, this tool doesn't count, you're not protecting art, you're protecting your turf.
And let's be clear, if you're using your imagination and your heart to create something new, that's art, no matter how you get there.
So yeah, maybe some people use AI because they have to, and maybe their work means just as much as yours. You don't get to hand out authenticity badges based on how many hours you spent on perspective grids.
The doom prophet. AI is doomed anyway.
So here comes LavenderTowne with her end times prophecy. Gen AI is doomed. It's not profitable. It's all fake hype. Burn it to the ground.
It's giving the end is nigh sandwich board energy, but in pink with the digital stylo.
She cites investor reports, and sure, maybe the tech's profitability is shaky, but let's get one thing straight. The economic fate of OpenAI or Midjourney doesn't cancel the value that people are getting from the tools.
Exactly. Just because a company might crash later doesn't mean what people are building today is worthless. You don't walk into someone's art studio and say, hey, oils are too expensive right now. Better stop painting.
It's like saying streaming services are going to collapse, so let's shut off everyone's Netflix accounts right now. Sorry, kid, no more watching Encanto. Hollywood's business model is too unstable.
It's ridiculous. Millions of people are using these tools to explore ideas, visualize their books, make storyboards, build pitch decks, process trauma, express identity. And she wants to treat all of that like collateral damage because Wall Street's not seeing a good ROI?
And let's not ignore what that kind of doom narrative does. When someone paints AI like a cursed, dying wasteland, they're not just predicting the future, they're discouraging people from even trying, from discovering it, from learning it.
And that gatekeeping hurts, because who gets scared off first? Not tech execs, not pro artists. It's the poor, the disabled, the burned out, the closeted, the working class, the ones who just found a way in.
This apocalyptic narrative is not neutral. It's used to reinforce the status quo, to say, go back to drawing on paper like the rest of us, or don't draw at all.
She's not just saying AI might fail. She's hoping it does. She's cheering for the fall of something that gave regular people a way to create. That's not just critical, that's cruel.
So yeah, maybe the tech is messy. Maybe it'll crash. But until then, it's a lifeline for millions of creators. Don't call it a plague just because you were never stuck in the desert.
Poisoning AI. Protest or collateral damage?
Let's revisit that whole AI poisoning thing. Because once you zoom out, it's not just a protest, it's collateral damage.
Protest's a powerful thing, but when your fire hits the wrong people, it's not rebellion, it's just reckless.
Lavender talks about poisoning AI datasets like it's this noble resistance, cyber graffiti against the corporate machine. And on the surface, I get it. If your art was stolen, corrupting the systems that stole it feels like justice, feels like a fight back.
Yeah, it's punk, it's anarchist, it's digital Molotovs to the glass of big tech. I get the instinct.
But let's pause for a second, because if these poisoning tactics really work, if they degrade the models long term, then they're not just hurting billion-dollar companies, they're screwing with tools used by regular people. People who are just trying to create something they've never been able to before.
Yeah, you're not breaking into a bank vault here, you're breaking into a public library and torching the books everyone was using.
Exactly. It's like setting fire to a wheelchair ramp because you're mad at the architect. The protest might be loud, but the people who suffer aren't the ones at the top.
And here's the kicker. A lot of the people using these AI tools, they're the very people Lavender claims to care about. Marginalized folks, neurodivergent folks, poor folks, creatives with no formal training, no time, no access.
People who finally found something that let them make their own art without needing a degree or 10 years of practice. And now we're saying, sorry, someone poisoned the well. Guess you're out of luck.
Punching up is fine, necessary even. But when your punch lands on the kid who just wanted to illustrate their fantasy novel, or the disabled artist finally building their first zine, that's not protest. That's just cruelty with a cause.
If you're fighting for the art community, you don't nuke the canvas for everyone. You find a way to protest that doesn't leave the most vulnerable creators in the crossfire.
Because if your activism makes it harder for regular people to tell their story, maybe it's not the righteous rebellion you think it is.
So yeah, fight the corporations, advocate for artist rights, but don't burn down the tool just because it wasn't yours to begin with.
AI makes us forget artists. Wait, what?
Lavender claims that AI is erasing artist identities, that people look at AI-generated art and can't trace where the style came from, and that's supposedly heartbreaking.
Look, that sucks when it happens, sure, but she takes that and runs straight into doomsday logic. People can't find the artist's name, therefore we're forgetting entire legacies. Like, huh?
Yeah, it's a slippery slope fallacy wrapped in sentiment. AI doesn't list citations, true, but acting like that single issue is enough to dismantle our collective memory of art? Come on, that's not how culture works.
We've been bad at crediting artists long before AI. Ever been on Tumblr, Pinterest, Twitter? Most people scroll past artwork without clicking once. No robot needed.
And let's not pretend this is new. How many kids knew the name of the person who designed the original Pokemon sprites, or who painted that meme background? And if we're gonna get real, Lavender, do you know every artist whose style influenced you?
Because it sounds like she's saying, I care about who made this art, and using it as a moral trump card, while forgetting forgetting that no one can trace every line back to its origin, not even her.
If some teen sees a gorgeous AI-generated image and doesn't know who inspired it, that's not AI's fault. That's human behavior. That's our job as creators, educators, and platforms to fix.
And guess what? The tools are neutral. We still have art historians, libraries, online communities. If someone really wants to learn who influenced what, that information is still there.
So let's not act like AI dropped out of the sky and destroyed our ability to remember names. If people aren't crediting artists now, it's because they weren't doing it before either.
Don't blame the wrench for the leaky pipe. Blame the plumber who didn't care.
Exactly. And if you're sad that kids can't track down a style, maybe build better discovery tools, not torpedo the platform they're using to explore in the first place.
Conclusion. Honest tech talk, and who we're really fighting for.
So yeah, AI art isn't perfect. No one said it was. But let's stop pretending that imperfection means extinction. Every tool humans have ever built, from the camera to the synthesizer to the Wacom tablet, has been misunderstood at first.
And every time there were gatekeepers crying, "It's not real, it's not pure, it's not art." Meanwhile, the rest of us, we were just trying to tell our stories.
AI can be abused. It can also be a bridge for people shut out of traditional systems, for voices that were never heard in the first place. It's not about replacing artists. It's about amplifying creators who never had a shot.
So let's focus on the real enemies. Political deepfakes, disinformation bots, voice impersonation scams, companies profiting off stolen work. That's what needs regulation. That's where the fight is.
But sabotaging the tools that help the disabled creator make their first comic, or help the broke queer kid visualize the fantasy world they've held in their heart for a decade, that's not revolution. That's just cruelty dressed up like activism.
So if you've ever used AI to create something that mattered to you, a story, a world, a piece of your identity, tell us in the comments. We see you. We believe in your right to create.
And if you're still riding the AI is evil train, cool. But ask yourself one thing. Are you mad at the tool, or mad that someone you never expected to be an artist finally got to make something that moved them?
Because if your only concern is keeping art pure, maybe it was never about justice. Maybe it was just about control.
Thanks for watching. Stay smart, stay curious, and for the love of creation, keep telling your stories, no matter how you get them out there.
Art belongs to all of us, not just the loudest voices, not just the earliest adopters. Everyone. See you next time.
They called it lazy, they called it fake, they said it had no soul, but they never stopped to ask who finally got to speak. Art is not dying, it is evolving, and the revolution will be prompted.